Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move the motion standing in my name on the notice paper relating to the proposed Chief Engineer for the ACT.
Question, is the motion be agreed to? Ms Lauder.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to speak on this motion today on what I think is a very important matter for the ACT. It's not one of those flashy, shiny, movable parts issues that people get all excited about, but what it does do is ensure integrity and scrutiny of projects in the ACT. It's not going to get anyone's face on the front cover of the Canberra Times tomorrow morning, and potentially that's why nothing's been done by the government in this regard. They haven't appeared to progress the matter, whereas they are happy to go to the opening of an envelope anywhere else throughout the ACT. But despite their unwillingness to progress this matter and to even talk about the matter, I wanted to bring this forward today. During the 2016 election, the Liberals promised the implementation of a Chief Engineer, in fact an engineers panel. And the Labor Party joined the Liberals in promising that implementation. That's 18 months or so ago. Almost exactly a year ago, 12 months ago, on the 4th of June 2017, the Chief Minister put out a press release that stated, "The ACT Government will introduce a position of Chief Engineer to lead the Territory's engineering and infrastructure projects." So we had the announcement of the promise during the election. 12 months ago, we had a media release about it relating to introducing the position. 12 months down the track, where are we? What do we have? I'll tell you, Madam Speaker, what we have. We have nothing. Zip, nada, absolutely nothing in this space. Let's remember, though, that this media release from the Chief Minister only came out after Engineers Australia came out saying that this was a forgotten election promise and the ACT government was not advancing the cause. So, promise, a media release in response to someone else raising the issue, and still nothing. That's why I brought the motion today, calling on the government to progress their promise and their announcements. Because for the past 12 months, that's all they've been able to do is put out a press release on it. I find it a bit sad that we have to remind the government and drag them kicking and screaming to try to implement their own promises, their own policies. It has similarities with some of the government's other areas where they talk the big talk but really drag their feet when it comes to the implementation. The ICAC or ACIC is one example. This is an important motion, Madam Speaker, because the Chief Engineer would play a vital role in ensuring that infrastructure in the ACT is of world-class and sound quality. By having a Chief Engineer, the government is ensuring that value is achieved in infrastructure projects. It ensures we have expert advice to the government on engineering, science, planning and safety. The outcomes for the community will be best served by having a Chief Engineer. It's a long overdue appointment. And the Chief Engineer can play a role in ensuring that projects are delivered on time, on budget and to the highest standard possible, which is in good direct contrast to the appointment of the engineer itself, which has not been on time or of the highest standard and has no funding allocated to it. So the role of the Chief Engineer, Madam Speaker, is so vital in ensuring the safety of our infrastructure builds. This city has seen what poor engineering expertise on major projects can lead to. For example, Madam Speaker, in August 2010, the city came to a standstill after the GDE that was in the process of being built collapsed onto the Barton Highway. 10 people were taken to hospital. We were so very lucky that no one was killed in that accident. As a city, we promised we wouldn't allow this to happen again and we would learn from our experiences. More recently, we've had the issue of replacing cladding on the Centenary Hospital for women and children that was flammable, a cladding that was known by the industry to be flammable when it was put on the hospital. It begs the question, Madam Speaker, would a chief engineer have advised against the installation of that cladding? I guess we will never know. But we do now have the opportunity to learn from these mistakes and appoint a chief engineer. We do have infrastructure projects being built in the ACT, buildings, roads and light rail, for example, as well as other infrastructure projects. But we have to ensure we're getting value and good quality from those projects, including light rail. And that's the type of thing that a chief engineer would look at. There may have been further scrutiny about whether Mitchell would get a light rail stop if the ACT had a chief engineer. But while the government is willing to tax us more and more than ever before, they're not willing to spend that money to ensure the safety and the future of Canberra through good engineering. If they are, perhaps they could hurry up and employ the chief engineer that they promised 18 months ago and again 12 months ago. If it was such a good idea in 2016 that they went to the election promising it, if it was such a good idea on the 4th of June 2017 that they put out a press release about it, why hasn't it happened? So this is quite a simple motion, Madam Speaker. It doesn't need to be amended. And I know Mr Gentleman has, I think, distributed something while I'm speaking, so I haven't had the opportunity to look at it. Whilst I can do many things at the same time, I'm not really capable of standing up and addressing you and reading Mr Gentleman's amendment at the precise same time. But yesterday, the Chief Minister, and I'm also capable of ignoring interjections from Mr Rattenbury, unlike some people, like Mr Rattenbury himself, who doesn't like interjections. But yesterday, when we had the budget handed down by the Chief Minister or the Treasurer, it included, towards the position of a chief engineer this year and the forward estimates, a donut. Nothing. 0, 0, 0, 0. That's how much the government is willing to put forward for a chief engineer position that they promised in the election and that they put out a press release about exactly a year ago. So I ask this government put their money where their mouth is and appoint a chief engineer. But I have my doubts that this will happen, even without reading Mr Gentleman's amendment, because we have a government that's hell-bent on looking good, putting up a building here and there, a rail stop over there, but without vision and independent advice. We have a chief minister who's more interested in announcing increases in areas that have actually been cut over a period of years, of having consultative sessions when they already ignore the consultation and the input from the community that we get. They love to announce policy, but they're not so good at implementing it. They love to produce glossy brochures and have lots of consultations. But where is the Australia Forum? Where is the stadium in the city? Where is the City to the Lake project? Where is the state of the youth, detention of youth in Bimberi up to? How is the state of our mental health facilities going? The state of affordable housing, ever-increasing stamp duty. So we like to announce bright, shiny, flashy things, but we're not actually addressing the issues that need addressing in our community. It's about talk and no action. Unfortunately for the people of Canberra, the employment of a chief engineer seems to be another one of those promises that don't eventuate. Another one of those things that's worthy of media when media is looking for something to fill their airtime or their pages. But it's all froth and bubble. There's nothing actually underneath it. I call upon the government to appoint their chief engineer so that there can be certainty in future developments, that the people of ACT can be reassured that they're getting independent advice, integrity in that advice, that they're getting value for money, and the things are done to the highest possible standard, including safety of the workers on those projects. And I commend the motion to the Assembly.
Question is that Ms Lauder's motion be agreed to.